we wanted to welcome you all. As we get started, I think we have a few people joining us here at the last moment. This is our first webinar in our series focused around using NoRedInk remotely. So before we get into this, I want to take a moment and just introduce myself. My name is Kelly Burnett. I'm on the support team here at NoRedInk. I'm currently located in Atlanta, Georgia, and I was a teacher of special education and English as a second language before moving into supporting teachers using technology. And today with me, I have my teammate, Christina, who's going to be answering your questions as they come through, and she'll just be supporting us here in the webinar. Speaking of questions, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, we will use this GoToWebinar panel, so you can type in questions throughout the session, as you see here. We'll also share a couple of polls as we go, so feel free to share, interact with those. And again, if you want to take a short moment, log into your own NoRedInk account and follow us along, feel free to do that. And as we do that, let's go over what we're going to cover in the next 30 minutes. So today we're going to talk about how to set up your classes and easily enroll your students. We know that you guys are in a new distance learning. Some of you are new to NoRedInk. Some of you are used to NoRedInk, but you haven't been here in a while. So we'll go through some steps and tips for that. We'll talk about troubleshooting common student login issues from anywhere. We know that this is kind of a big pain point for teachers when you're not in a classroom with your students. And then finally, we're going to create and share our first assignment with students. And in addition to that, making sure that they can see the assignment that we're creating. So we're going to go ahead and kick this off with hearing from you. I'm going to throw up a quick poll, and I would love to hear, what is your biggest remote teaching challenge right now? So it takes just a moment to pop up, but once you see this poll, please share if maybe you're having trouble creating your classes. Let's see. Oh, I love it's always, there we go. So what's your biggest challenge right now? Is it creating classes, getting started with those, maybe getting students enrolled in your classes, making sure that they're actually in the correct class and logging in? Students having issues getting on NoRedInk, so maybe they're saying, I can't log in, or I don't know my password, things like that. Or the last one, if you're not sure your students can actually see assignments, or they're saying, you know, I don't know what to do next, I'm not sure what to do on NoRedInk now that I've logged in. Awesome. Looks like we have about half of the people reporting in, so we'll give just a moment to let people share out, and this will kind of help us where we want to focus and the specific information. Awesome. Looks like a lot of people are kind of split almost perfectly. That's wonderful. All right. I'll give about 10 more seconds before I close the poll, so feel free to speak your piece here. Let us know what you're struggling with the most so we can be sure to support you. All right. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and close that poll. Thank you all so much for sharing. So it looks like we are pretty evenly split between these issues, with a little bit of an emphasis on making sure students can see assignments. So we will make sure to get to that today as well. Let's kick off with our class creation and enrollment. So I mentioned I'm going to go step by step. So I'm going to go ahead and slide into my teacher dashboard here on NoRedInk. Just make this a little bit bigger for us. Now, as I go through, I will always try to start at the teacher dashboard so you can follow along with me, but I just wanted to share that if you'd rather watch only, you can always find resources for step-by-step of how to do everything we talk about today in our Help Center, and I'll also include a link in that in the follow-up email. Before we can enroll our students, we need to make sure we create our class. So if you haven't created a class yet, you're going to see this page, and if you have, you might see your first class listed here. To create your first class, you're going to click Manage Classes and add a new class. Now, I did want to point out, and I'm going to go over to my other account here. If you've already created a class like this, you should see Manage Classes here on the left-hand side. So if you're following along, you've already created a class, you'll see Manage Classes here so you can keep up with us. If you're brand new, you can click Manage Classes in the middle and click Add a New Class. And here I'm going to create my class by entering the class name. Today I'm going to create an English 9 class. My grade level, and just so you know, this grade level does not impact the level of content. It's not the difficulty of content your students see. This is just a grade level for the class for reporting purposes. And click Add New Class. All right. Now I have my class. You'll see it here. This is the Manage Classes page. So we're going to talk real quickly about what we see when we manage our classes. Every class that you create will have this Details tab and a Students tab. So let's start with Details. The first thing we want to talk about is this class code, and right next to it, the copy invite link. The copy invite link is, it looks like, I'm going to take a moment. It sounds like some people are not able to hear me. If you are having some issues with hearing me, you may not hear this, but just so you know, if you do have some trouble, go ahead and let us know in the questions, and we can send a few troubleshooting as well. All right, so let's talk about here. So the classes you create on NoRedInk will have the same information here. So we'll see details. In here, there are class code and copy invite link. And the reason why I want to call this out, there are actually 3 different ways to get students enrolled in your class. Today, and in this series, we're focusing on how to support students when we aren't right there with them. And for that reason, I'm going to strongly recommend that you take a look at this copy invite link and you use this invitation link to enroll your students in your class. The reason why we offer this, or why we want to call this out, is because when you click copy link, you'll get a little confirmation. And this copies a link directly to your clipboard on your device, so you can paste it somewhere for your students, like in an email or in a Google Classroom announcement or on your website. And as soon as they click that link, they're going to be taken to join your class with an existing NoRedInk account or create a new NoRedInk account, depending on whether they've used the system. So the students only need this link once. When they click on the link, they'll have one of 2 options. They'll log in or they will create a new account. I'm actually going to take a moment here and I'm going to create, let's take a moment to actually see what this looks like from the student point of view. So if I copy and paste this invite link, your students will be asked here. It's going to give them ready to join Ms. Burnett's English 9 class, so you know that that link is working. And then they can log in with their existing accounts, log in with Google if that's how they've logged in previously, or create a new account as a student. So just so you know that that's what they will see. And if they are new and they click sign up as a student, let's see, they're going to be asked to finish creating their account setup. So they'll click continue and they'll be able to create their accounts. So I just wanted to take a moment, show you a little bit about what the students are going to see on that side. Now, in addition to that, I want to take another moment and share a resource from our team for getting students up and running quickly. So let's take a moment while we're here on our NoRedInk teacher dashboard. Anytime you're here on the dashboard, you should see this help and info. So if you see your name in the top corner, you'll see help and info next to it. And this is how to get to our help center. I will also include a link to this in our follow-up email. And in this banner, this is the quickest way to find this. If you click the Learn More tab here, but you can also find these resources in our resources for remote learning. You can search for this. And again, I'll include a link. We have a new article called Distance Learning, Getting Students Started Quickly. Now, the reason I want to call this out, we specifically created this. In fact, Christina is answering your questions, put a lot of hard work into this article. And as we go through it, I'm just going to quickly point out some things. First, it does lay out how to invite your students with that invite link. Secondly, it does have an invite letter for new NoRedInk students. So you can copy and paste this letter to your teachers, to your families and your students, and actually copy and paste your invite link as well. And the last thing I really want to call out about here is there is a short video tour of NoRedInk created by our support team that is specifically created for students. So this is just a way of getting them more acclimated to NoRedInk. So just to clarify, this is just an additional resource that we created for you. It is in our resources for helping students remotely, and I will include a link directly to this in our follow-up email as well. So let's go back and take a moment. I know this is kind of a lot. We're going to run through this really quickly. But we talked about creating your first class. So we use that manage classes, and we clicked add a class. We talked about the invitation links to enroll students. Specifically, this is what we recommend when we're doing remote learning because we can copy that link and paste it into however we're communicating with our students. And then also sharing the resources to help students get started. So that article that I just showed you includes that letter that you can copy and paste, as well as a student-facing video, and we will include a link to that directly in our follow-up email. So let's keep moving on. The next thing from our poll earlier, it does look like a lot of you are also having trouble with getting students into their accounts. And we know that troubleshooting can be even more difficult than usual when you're not in the room with them to see what they're doing. So in the next few minutes, I'm going to share how you can troubleshoot these types of issues from your teacher account. But I do want to just share also that if you end up troubleshooting, you can't get to the root cause of why the students are not able to log in, that's when you can also reach out to our support team. So we just want to make sure that you know that you have the option to try and troubleshoot your students logging in as well. So I'm going to go into a different teacher account. I'm going to go into this one for now, because I do have a class created here, pre-populated with some students. So you've got students, they're starting to log in. On the NoRedInk dashboard, I'm going to click back into that Manage Classes page. So I'm going to click back here into Manage Classes, just like we did before. And we're going to take a look. It looks the same thing. So I have my class name, all of that information, and the tab that we haven't looked at yet, which is our Students tab. So when I click on the Students tab here, I'm going to see all the students who are enrolled in my class. And I want to call out a feature that is really helpful when you're not sure what email or username your student should be logging in with. So a lot of times we've seen students go home, they go, I don't know what to log in with. I don't know my username. I've completely forgotten all of that. This right here says print login cards. We know remotely, if you print a login card, you don't have a way to get it to your students. But what I want to call your attention to is if you do click this link, it's going to pull up to print this information. And there is a way. First, for every student in your class, the login card will show their username as well as the password that they have. So I'm just going to zoom in so we can see here. So it'll show their username and the password they should log in with, or if they've changed their password. So if you see Lily here, she has changed her password. So as a teacher, I can't provide it to her for security reasons, but I can reset it. We'll talk about that in just a moment. And Luna down here has actually used Google to log in. So when my student is asking how she should log in, I can then tell her, make sure you click the Google login option. If you want to copy and paste this information, you can just by highlighting and copying and pasting, or you can use your print option. And this is Google Chrome. So just so you guys know, I'm doing this on Google Chrome, but if you have another browser, just let us know. We can always help you out with how to do this. And click Save as a PDF. In case you don't know, this is something you can do. You learned something new today. And you can actually save this file to send out to your students to copy and paste from, however you'd like to use this. So it's not only for printing, although that is the original purpose of it. We had to get a little bit creative now that we're not in the classroom with students. The next thing I want to do, we've got students, we know how they should be logging in using that Google single sign-on, but some of those students, it said they need to reset their password. This is also one of the most common things we see on support. So for a student who's in your class who needs to reset their password, let's see, Lily here forgot her password. So I'm going to click Actions. And you'll see that you have change username, reset password, or remove from class. So if I click reset password, it's going to reset her password to the default, which is 1234567. And I can then tell my student to log in with that username and password. And you'll see a confirmation here. Now, in addition to that, you did see where it said remove from class, and I just want to call this out. If you notice that your students have a lot of accounts, maybe Lily's created a few extra accounts from trying to get into the class, I can remove any duplicates as well. So this is just one of the ways that you can kind of manage how students are logging in and help troubleshoot those little issues to make sure they're getting online. Now, lastly, as I mentioned, I wanted to share that once you've tried these troubleshooting steps, if your students still cannot log in, you can always reach out to us on support by, again, clicking this Help and Info tab. And once you click here, we showed those resources, but I wanted to call out right down here, this Contact Us. If you click this, you'll see a support form and you can enter in all of the information about the student. Just make sure to include the student's name, the class, and how they should be logging in from that print login cards, and any other details of the behavior they're experiencing. And that'll send us a quick message so we can get that student unblocked as quickly as possible. So again, you found that in the Help and Info tab here to contact our support team. And let's take a quick look. I think that's everything for troubleshooting. So we talked about downloading the login cards, not printing them, but you can do that. You can check those out, copy and paste, and make sure students are logging in the correct way. Checking if students are linked to Google single sign-on. That was one of those other things in the login cards that we were looking for. And then also resetting students' passwords. If they have changed a password, then you can reset that for them to make sure they're getting in. And of course, if you ever have any additional trouble that you're having problems troubleshooting, you just let us know on support. Christina, thank you so much for surfacing this question. So the question is, does the program give students a username and password, or does the student make it up? This is a great question. So I mentioned there's a few ways to log into NoRedInk and get your students added. So I'm going to take a moment and go back here to my Manage Classes page. So just so we're clear, I'm on the Manage Classes and I'm viewing my Students tab so I can see all of my students. We mentioned using that invite link for students to create their account or sign up. The other thing that you see here is add students. Now, you can manually add students here by clicking add manually and adding their first name, last name, and the additional information here. This will give students a username and a password, the default password of 1234567. So I'm just going to go ahead and put one in here. Let's see if I can get creative with another Harry Potter name that I don't have in here. And we'll show you how this looks. So I've added Severus to my class. His username is this. His temporary password is this. The reason why I highly recommend you use the invite link and let students log in themselves is because now I have to communicate this to Severus. So I have to send him either an email or reach out to him individually to make sure that he has this username and password to log in. So it just makes some extra work, especially when we're dealing with getting students online remotely. That is a great question. Thank you for sharing. Again, that invitation link is the one that we highly recommend that you use to get students in your class by copying and pasting that. Awesome. So we're going to go ahead and jump into our next part, which is creating assignments and making sure students can view them. But please keep sending in those questions, and we'll try to get to the ones, especially the big ones that are good for the whole group, right at the end of our session. All right, skipping ahead a little bit here. Let's go back to our teacher dashboard. So I'm going to go back to my first account here. So everybody can follow along. We'll just take a moment, let that log in. So we have our teacher dashboard. This is where we start on NoRedInk. We will see our classes created here. And the first thing we want to do is making sure that we create an assignment and make sure students can see that. So from here, I'm actually going to click Create Assignment because I haven't created anything for these students yet. But I do want to call out that you can create assignments a few different ways by clicking here in Curriculum or clicking Assignments and viewing your assignments. You'll see where you can create a new one. So here in the curriculum, or let's go back just a moment. so I can clarify that. So assignments, curriculum, and I'm going to click create assignment here next to my class, but you have a few ways of getting here. Now, we are going to go into a lot more detail about the curriculum library and the different types of assignments for skill practice and assessment of grammar skills in our session next week. So we do hope you'll join us. For today, we're just going to focus on creating one first assignment. And I'm going to go ahead and start at the top here with a planning diagnostic. Now, just to clarify, there are two types of diagnostics, planning and unit. So if you're thinking of which one you want to start with, a planning diagnostic is an assignment that will help you understand better the areas you need to focus on with your students. It's great at the start of a semester when you're starting with the program. And a unit diagnostic is exactly as it says. It's a unit pretest for a very specific area of focus. So if I click on planning diagnostics here, I'm going to click assign. And as this loads, you'll see here a few things. So I can choose which areas I want to include on my planning diagnostic. So I'm just going to say these three for now, but you can take a look here. One thing to note, you can always search or filter by grade. So if I filter by grades 7 through 9, maybe I want to include a few that are really applicable to my students. And then you can modify this assignment, how many questions you'd like. Like I said, we won't get into too much detail here because we're just creating our first assignment for practice here. I'm going to assign it to all of my students in my English 9 class. I'd like it to start right away. You can edit the due date. And for here, I'm just going to go ahead and name it my planning diagnostic. Again, we'll go into a lot of detail about how to customize these for you next week. But when I click assign, we're going to see a couple of options on how to share this diagnostic and make sure that students can see it. Once I've created the assignment, I'll see it here in my assignments. So I'll see my English 9 class, and I have one assignment in progress, which is that planning diagnostic I created. Now, I want to view this how my students are going to see it. So if I click preview, which is the eye icon, you can actually take the diagnostic as a student. It won't save your data, but it is a good way to check out what your students will experience on the assignment. So again, we click this preview icon to preview the assignment. And the other thing I want to share while we're on this page is this share box. So this small box with an arrow, it says share if we hover. And this allows you to share this assignment with your students directly. One reason I wanted to bring this up is, again, we're trying to get students right into these assignments as quickly as possible. So you can copy the link, again, like with the invite link, you can paste this in an email, you can paste this in an announcement, or for our assignments, you can share this directly to Google Classroom. So if you have an existing Google Classroom account that you're using to communicate with students, you can share the link to this diagnostic directly with them. So that's just a quick way of saving you some time, making sure students know exactly what assignments they should be working on. But the last thing I wanted to share, I'm going to click back into my NoRedInk. So I'm going back to my teacher dashboard. And we really want to see what students are seeing. When we're in the classroom, we can glance over their shoulders so we can see what it looks like for them. We can help them know where to click. And that's one of the reasons why we created that student video and that letter that you can copy and paste for students. But as a teacher, you can always view NoRedInk as one of your students right here. So underneath welcome and some of those getting started steps, click view NoRedInk as a student. I'm going to actually open this in a new tab, so hopefully we can take a quick look. There we go. You'll know that you're viewing this as a student when you see this banner, and you can click to return back to your teacher dashboard anytime. But this is a way to check that your assignment is in progress and available for your students. So my planning diagnostic I created for my students, it's available for them to start now, is right here. I can click into it and see it, and I can experience it just like my students will. So this is just another quick way of checking what should students expect. Make sure that the assignment is live and that it's showing as expected for your kiddos. All right, I'm going to go here and we're just going to run real quick through what we just covered, quite a lot. Creating our first assignment, we walked through that really quickly. We talked about how we'll share more details about that next week. Sharing assignments with the direct link for students, and then making sure that students can actually see the assignments by previewing them directly or viewing NoRedInk as one of your students and making sure that it's showing up where it's clickable. Now, one thing I do want to let you know, it kind of goes to troubleshooting as well as making sure students can see assignments. If your student says, I've logged in, I can't see an assignment, I'm not sure what to do, go back to those troubleshooting steps with login and confirm that they're using the correct account when they log in. So if on your side it does say they should be logging in with Google, but they're logging in with a username, they may not see your assignments because they're not logging in with the correct account. So we definitely want to try to troubleshoot those issues. But again, if you have any trouble with that, you can always let us know. Awesome. We have covered a lot. I do see we have some questions in here, so we want to get to those. So really quickly, key takeaways that when you walk out of here, I know you guys have a million things on your plate. Keep these in mind. Use invitation links to easily have your students join your class. Do not add them manually, or you will make a lot more work for yourself trying to communicate their usernames. 2, troubleshoot student login issues from that Manage Classes page. Look at their username, look at the print login cards to see how they should log in, and reset their password if you need to. And lastly, share assignments with students through direct links. That will get them straight to the assignment so you know that they're accessing the correct assignment and able to complete their work. Now, with that being said, we have some questions, so let's jump into those for the next few minutes. The first question is, if a student logs back in and has multiple accounts, are they required to complete the diagnostics again? That is a great question. So there are some unintended consequences when students create more than one account. And let's talk a little bit about how we can resolve this and how students can resolve this for themselves. To do that, I'm going to go back into my teacher dashboard. And I'm actually going to go where my students are here. So if a student has logged in, they say, I can't see it, I have multiple accounts, I took my diagnostic, but now it's asking me to take it again. I would click here, Manage Classes, and click into our Students tab again. So Manage Classes and Students. And look here if you have duplicate students here. If you see that you have 2 students by the name of Lily, you can take a look at each student's accounts individually by clicking their name and checking their past work. So if you notice that this student hasn't completed any work, this is probably one of the accounts you want to remove for that student. So since Lily hasn't done a lot of work on this account, maybe she has a duplicate account, I can then drop her from my class by clicking Remove from Class. This is, again, just a way of making sure that your duplicate accounts aren't in here. They're not confusing students. They're not doubling up on work. Again, troubleshooting from this Manage Classes page and then reaching out to us on support or checking out our Help Center if you know that you're looking for something specific on how to remove duplicate accounts is a great place to start. Let's see, the next question here, if students already have an account but they aren't linked to Google, can they use Google SSL? That is a great question as well. So when a student is logging in, and let's see if I can jump into Lily's account here on NoRedInk. It's gonna make me drag it in. So I'll take a moment. This is always great here. So my student, I need to log in. This is my student, Lily. Let's see if we can make this bigger for us. When a student is logging in, they can log in using the Google SSO, but when they log in with Google, they need to link their accounts first. So for Lily here, she needs to first log in with her email or username. I already reset her password, so we know that that's going to be in here. And I'm just going to show you really quickly, and this is step-by-step in the Help Center as well, but if a student is logged in and they click Settings, they can link their account to Google using the Link with Google account. So this is one way that, yes, any student can link with Google single sign-on. If you think that that's an easier way for your students to log in, I definitely recommend this. All right. Wow, time flies. So it looks like we're at time. We do have one more question here. So I'm going to take a moment and answer it. But if you need to jump off, thank you all so much for joining us. And we will send you a recording of this as well as some links to helpful resources that we shared today. And we just want to say thank you. And we hope you'll join us next week for our next session focused on those assignments. But before we go, we have one more question. Can I assign an assignment I'm creating to multiple classes at once? The answer is yes. So when you create multiple classes on that assignment page, get out of my student account, and we'll go ahead and get into this account. And I'm going to click assignments here. Now, I only have one class for this account, or for this assignment, but when you create an assignment, I'm going to make a copy of this. And this will basically just show us exactly what we saw before when we created it. You'll see all of your classes listed here, and you can select each one individually. It will create the same assignment for every class, but the assignment will be then individual for each class. So if you need to update, adjust the start date for a different class, it won't impact your English 9. So you can make some little adjustments here as well for each class, but there is a way to create the assignment for all of your classes. So hopefully that helps. But like I said, I'm just going to plug next week when we join together, we will go into all the details of assignments, creating them, customizing them, and checking the results. Oh, we already skipped all those questions. So we do hope you'll join us next week for using NoRedInk remotely session 2, focused on skill practice and assessment. Thank you again for joining us. We wish you all the best. Please stay well, and you all are doing a wonderful job. So keep at it. We're here to help. Have a great afternoon.